Welcome to another episode of CineBeans. Today we are reviewing Ironheart. Let's get into it. Alright, let's talk about the spoiler-free review of Ironheart. I just want to start off by saying I had zero expectations going into this. I had no idea how I was going to feel. Seeing the trailers, I wasn't fully sold yet. I kind of had the vibe of what we were going for. It felt more like a Robin Hood style show, and that's kind of what it turned out to be, but also kind of not what it turned out to be. Either way, it does a very good job of building off of where we left off with Riri Williams, aka Ironheart. We get the old school Iron Man-esque style suit-ups again, which was amazing to see. I love the old school suit-ups. Don't get me wrong, the nanotech is cool in its own right, but there is something about old school suit up. Think of like Iron Man 2 and the suitcase armor, how satisfying that is to watch, or even in Iron Man 1 when he finally gets to suit up for the first time in the red and gold. It just hits different than watching the nanotech suit just slowly go across. The entire premise of this show is Riri trying to gain money so she can keep funding her projects to move forward to help the world become a better place. And in that sense, some of it not being the best way to acquire that money. Magic also gets to be brought back into this with the hood, and is a pretty cool combination of things to see technology versus magic and where those two really align against each other. Speaking of magic, the hood was fantastic. The only downside is we needed to get more of him. So overall for me, this show was solid. Like I said, I had low expectations going in. I'm glad we're getting Iron Man-esque style armors back into the MCU. It feels good. I really wish Tony would be around because I would have loved to see Tony up against someone else in this show. I don't want to give too many spoilers away because it is a big spoiler. And again, I really like the hood. I think they dialed him back a little. I think we can see a lot more of him in the future because the hood is a very cool villain in Marvel, whom I personally love. I think he's awesome. And to see him work, it was great. Anthony Ramos killed it. So definitely give it a look. Spoilers, 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 spoilers. All right, we are getting into the spoiler section of the episode. So here we go. First of all, we start off this series. Riri gets kicked out of MIT because she's selling all of her projects to other students to try to make cash to keep funding her technological escapades, if you will, which forces her to move back home. You then get to see what's happened in Riri's life. We get to see that she lost her stepdad and her best friend in a drive-by. We still won't fully know why the drive-by happened, but it's a very sad part of the show because you finally get to see what drives Riri to down the path that she wants to go down. So as she's trying to figure out how to continue to fund her projects because she does need money, she runs into the Hood's gang. The Hood at this point in time is robbing from millionaires, billionaires, people with lots of cash. So they come to an agreement that as long as no one dies and no one is killed, that she is willing to help them out because she needs the money, which not a great idea. So she rebuilds her armor. They go on a couple of heists, and about heist number 2, that's where things get a little rough. They get a little rough because Riri has been starting to sniff out that the Hood might actually have the intentions to murder people if things don't go the way that he wants them to. And as she's looking into the Hood, trying to get a sample of his hood, she gets found out by the right-hand man of the Hood. They get into a fight. She leaves him for dead. That guy dies. This is up between episode 1 and episode 3, right? That's kind of the first half, because this is a tale of 2 halves, and that's kind of how they released it as well. Also during this time period, Riri runs into who we later find out to be Ezekiel Stane, who is the son of Obadiah Stane from Iron Man 1, who has changed his name, does not want to be anything like his dad. And instead of going down the building suits of armor route, he wants to modify his body. So instead of him being a guy in a suit. He decides he wants to be a cyborg, essentially. So he's a good dude until he gets stabbed in the back by Riri, because while she left that guy for dead, she also left part of Zeke's tech behind as well, and Zeke gets attached to the murder of that man. Not cool. So the back half is the Hood's gang versus Riri Williams, and she has to try to survive and beat the Hood, who she realizes that she cannot beat the Hood with just science alone. So she gets some help from some people who are magicians. They are sorcerers and sorceresses, essentially, because they're both girls, so sorceresses. Anyway, she goes to these two, and they identify that that cloth is not a good sign. Whoever made it is top evil, not a very good dude. She's now trying to find a way to take out the Hood itself and destroy it for the betterment of everybody. And she realizes the only way that she can do this is with magic. So what does Riri do? She creates a new suit that can harness magic. Pretty cool concept. Pretty sweet. So essentially the suit is now protected with magic, getting ready for the final fight. While this has been going on, the Hood has robbed the third person, which you find out was his dad, who kicked him out of the house at 12 years old because he just didn't want to be a father anymore, which is crazy. That's crazy. Zeke has gone through his cyborg changes and has gone complete cyborg, but under the control of the Hood. And so the Hood is just using Zeke Stain as his own personal weapon. Talk about daddy issues, because they both have them. The Hood has now become a silent partner in all three businesses that he robbed, and he's off on his own now because he told the rest of the crew to go away. They're done. We also learn more about his backstory as well, in the sense of he tried to rob his dad before, and right before he was about to get arrested, he gets taken away by the guy who gives him the Hood in the first place, which is Mephisto. The long-awaited introduction that people were thinking way back in WandaVision is when we'd get Mephisto. And Mephisto, there's still a lot of mystery with Mephisto. Mephisto gives the Hood his iconic hood, all because the Hood wants power and money. And Mephisto is determined that he can use the Hood for his own personal gain. We don't fully know what the deal is yet with Mephisto and the Hood. We just assume that it's the Hood's soul. I think it might end up being a little bit more complicated than that, but we don't fully know. So then we get a fight between Zeke Stain here towards the end. This is the second fight. First fight happens after, I believe, a White Castle interaction that Ironheart barely gets out of from the Hood's crew. And then it's her versus Zeke Stain. And Zeke dismantles the armor. It's not even close. He wipes the floor with her, and then he lets her live. Because deep down, I think he still thinks they're friends. Or at least he cares about her a little bit. Enough to not kill her. So yeah, you get the second fight. And Zeke's not fully in control, but Ironheart takes him out, reboots him, he's free. This leads to the final fight between her and the Hood, and I wish this fight was a little bit longer than it was. However, what little fight we did get, dude, I hope they tap into the Hood's demon form in full the next time we see him, because it was starting to get there a little bit, and you're like, oh, he's a monster. He's an absolute monster. Because at first, you just get a little bit of the magic guns. You can see the bullets move. He goes invisible. You don't get the full demon form until the final fight. And it was awesome. It was really cool to watch. And Ironheart essentially tricks him and then beats him, takes the Hood off of him, contains the Hood. That's a wrap. Which then leads us to the final scene. And it's Riri Williams out of the suit, and it's Mephisto. And they're talking to each other. And she's pretty much knows that she wants money as well. But there's also this overwhelming thought that should be running through her head that magic always comes with a price, because that is what the sorceress has told her. Which cuts to the end, and while they're talking, it flashes forward to after their conversation. Her friend has come back to life. We don't know the full set of the deal, and we see the same curse essentially that had the Hood rise up on her arm as well. And that's where we leave off. Let's get into the character breakdown. Handy dandy notebook right here. Let's get into it. First of all, let's talk about Ironheart, played by Dominique Thorne. She's fantastic. I love her as Ironheart personally. Like I said, I enjoy having the more traditional Iron Man style armors back, and she makes them her own. Each Ironheart armor that we have in this is fantastic. The first one from MIT is great looking armor. The one that she uses for a majority of the show is fixed up, and it works for what she needs it to do. And the final armor, that's a sexy armor. She builds it out of her stepdad's old car. They turn it into an armor that can also help with a magic coating. It was a fantastic suit. The main thing with Riri is a survivor. She is an adapter to her environment. It's nice seeing that, right? Yes, she made some bad decisions in this show, right? By teaming up with the Hood to get money, and then again by making a deal with the devil. And again, we don't know what the full deal is, but she's young. When you're young, you make some mistakes that you probably shouldn't make. Hopefully not life-changing ones like making a deal with the devil. That's a hard one to get behind, okay? However, she did fix her mistakes off the first one, right? She took out the problem. She knew that the Hood was going to be a bigger problem than what she originally thought. This man isn't just a thief, a Robin Hood style guy. He is a murderer. He is looking to take over a good portion of the world if he's allowed to do so. So overall, I can't wait to see her again. I'm hoping we get a Champions/Young Avengers movie. I think she'd be fantastic in that. And right now we're looking at like Miss Marvel. We're looking at Kate Bishop, Hawkeye for that. We kind of need some young guys in that because we have Ironheart as well in there. I mean, Scar maybe. Don't know if I'm wanting that. I would love Miles to come in here. I'd love a Nova in here as well, a young Nova. So overall, I'm excited to see where she goes next. They added a lot of depth to her character that I really appreciated because this is not she's been through a lot. She has been. And she's doing what Tony wanted to do, which is after Avengers 1, he wanted to essentially build a safeguard to protect Earth, and it turned into Ultron, and she's wanting to do the same thing. She wants to keep people safe because she doesn't want what happened to her to happen to other people. And that's an honorable thing. Just needs to go about it a better way. Next, we have Natalie, which was her best friend, played by Lyric Ross. She's an AI throughout most of this show until the end when she gets brought back to life by Mephisto, we assume. She's a lot of fun as an AI. This AI had a personality. This was, we're used to Jarvis and then Friday, and this AI was a lot more advanced than that, which should give you props to Riri because she's the one who was able to create it. And this AI is formed from Riri trying to make an AI system with her own mind in place, but she was so busy thinking about her best friend that AI became her best friend. And she realized she couldn't probably duplicate that process. So this AI is pretty much like the actual person. This is her friend Natalie, just as a robot, like Vision, kind of, but not in her own body or anything like that. And it helps Riri deal with the trauma of losing her best friend. It's a weirdly cathartic thing, but also like if my best friend died and then came back to life as an AI, I don't know if I could handle that. Like her brother, Natalie's brother, when he meets her, he is appalled. And I get it. I definitely get it. But also, it's not like Riri planned on that being the AI. So it's a weird mixed bag of emotions that's difficult to navigate for sure. Overall, I liked her. I think she helped Riri. I think she helps ground Riri in a sense because without Natalie involved in her life, I think she goes down the darker paths. I think Natalie kind of helps keep her on the right side of things, keeps her focused. Next, we go into the villains. We get to the Hood, played by Anthony Ramos. And like I said earlier in the spoilers portion, he's fantastic in this. I loved the Hood. He goes from this like gang leader, he's kind of intimidating, but he's also like, he's relatable, he's cool. Like it essentially feels like a family environment for the Hood's gang until he loses his best friend, Mirror, to Ironheart. Fun thing I just noticed. He loses his best friend, and then he goes down the darker path, and he gets more involved with the Hood. Now the Hood's not coming off, and the Hood is now becoming one with him because it gives him more power. And yeah, you feel bad for the guy because you realize his dad was a dick, kicked him out when he was 12, because I believe his mom died. And yeah, so he's 12 years old. He's kicked out of his rich dad's house because his dad doesn't want a kid. And so he's living on the streets, and he's probably like, all that money should be mine someday. So he's been plotting this for a very long time, and now he has the power to do so. And originally, like I said, if his dad's a dick, all these other rich people are just assholes, I understand why he's like, you know what, maybe he's not doing it the right way to take these guys down, and he's going to try to take it over so he can do what he wants with those companies. However, that rage and revenge just takes over thanks to the Hood. But he's fantastic. I love seeing the power sets. I can't wait to see him get involved with street level heroes. I'd love to see Daredevil, Luke Cage, Spider-Man maybe. Doctor Strange would be kind of fun. I know Doctor Strange isn't street level, but to see maybe him work with a Moon Knight on this or a Blade, like there's a lot of options here. I'm literally thinking of the Marvel Knights roster because that's just kind of where the Hood fits in, and I'd love to see that. I'd also like to see the Hood work with Wilson Fisk. I think there's a lot of fun opportunities, and they did the right thing by keeping this guy alive. It's a perfect. Keep the guy alive. Let's see what else he can do. At the end of the show, we see him trying to get to Kamartaj, which is the sorcerer's training facility. That's where Doctor Strange learned how his magic abilities. So I'm very curious to see where the Hood goes from here. Next, we have whom I think stole the show entirely, Ezekiel Stane, played by Alden Ehrenreich. He's fantastic. This dude killed it. I didn't know how I was going to feel about this character. You know, obviously he's not known as Ezekiel Stane right away, but when they announce it and he's like, yeah, I don't want to be like my dad, dude, that's good for him because his dad was power hungry. And it's actually kind of crazy too because the world still doesn't know how Obadiah actually died. Zeke knows, but the world isn't fully aware that Obadiah actually, you know, became the Ironmonger, tried to take out Tony Stark, and then ended up dying. That. And Zeke is refreshing as well. This is why I wish Tony was still around, because I would have loved to see these two go at it a little bit. Again, like I mentioned earlier in this video, he's not out there to build an armor. He wants to make enhancements to people to try to help make people better. And so he'll experiment on himself. He'll try to modify his own body, which is a very different outlook. You have Riri, who's building all this tech and weapons and stuff to put around her, not to put in her. And then Zeke gets the upgrades that he finally figured out that he needed, and he turns into an absolute star. This dude took out Ironheart like it was nothing. The dude is essentially a walking EMP. His main source of power is like electricity. He shoots lightning. That's badass. Zeke is badass. And so I'm excited to see what they do with him further down the line. Now that he is freed from the Hood and he can do whatever he wants, dude, wait till we see him next, because you know he's going to keep modifying his body to help elevate himself even further. And so I'm curious to see what his motivations will be moving forward. Finally, we have the mystery man, the hidden gem, the thing that nobody really knew if he was actually going to be in this show or not. We have Mephisto, played by Sacha Baron Cohen. And this dude, as soon as he hits the screen, you know, okay, this guy is evil, this guy is scary, this guy is powerful. All right, in his conversation with Riri, she mentions Dormammu to him, and he's like, oh yeah, Dormammu's got nothing on me. All right, if you remember, Dormammu had to be pretty much put into a replay with Doctor Strange for Doctor Strange to win that fight. Dormammu killed Doctor Strange so many times. He put those two in a time loop where Dormammu's like, fine, enough, let's be done. But that's the way he beat Dormammu. And Mephisto's saying he's stronger than him. That's terrifying to think about. We go into his conversations with the Hood. He gives the Hood power. Hood wants more power. He's like, no, I gave you everything that you need. And right now, I've got my hands in other places. And after Riri takes out the Hood, he knows that she's vulnerable as well, because he knows that her motivations are to acquire more money so she can keep building the things that she can build, because she just doesn't have the resources, and he's going to take advantage of that. And both times he's making these deals, he just says, I'm going to take something that I find valuable, and he never really addresses what that is. Again, we assume it's the soul. However, in the comics and stuff, Mephisto's goals are a little bit more complicated than that. So I'll be very curious to see actually what those deals were moving forward. And we kind of want to know some other things about Mephisto, but he's here. And there's this really cool shot too of in the spoon, like when he picks it up to eat, like you can see the reflection on the spoon. It shows what he actually looks like. And Sacha Baron Cohen as Mephisto, this is a great casting, because Sacha can give off the very creepy vibes that Mephisto needs, right? And it's not just creepy though, but it's also smooth. Like you have to be smooth and creepy. It's this vibe that when he walks in, you're like, there's something up with this guy. I don't know what it is, but I know that I need to keep my distance from him. So he's here. And honestly, it opens up the door for a lot more possibilities moving forward. I'll be very curious to see some other things, and we'll get into that here in a second. So, all right. So here's my other notes. my other questions that I have after watching this show. First of all, what is the full deal that Riri made? What's involved? Is she just getting money and power? Did he give her a suit that gives her that abilities? Obviously, her best friend is now alive. What if that's the deal? But she seemed genuinely surprised when her friend was real. Maybe she just asked for the AI to come back, and instead he did one thing further and brought her back to life. How does that affect everything else too? Because does her family just assume that she was alive the whole time? Is there like that magic reset, kind of like reverse Spider-Man? Well, it wouldn't be reverse Spider-Man, but it'd be like in Spider-Man No Way Home, essentially, where everybody forgets who he is at the end of it. Does everybody forget now that she was dead? I don't know. I don't know how this plays out. Clearly, that's not how it worked for Riri, because Riri was genuinely surprised and shocked that her friend was back and alive. So we don't know exactly what the full deal is. We just know that she did in fact make a deal thanks to her arm showing the same thing that the Hood had. Furthermore, what is Mephisto's plan in all of this? Because I feel like it's more than just the soul. I think, again, I bring up Spider-Man because Spider-Man has one of the most iconic deals with Mephisto, which is still one of the most irritating things in comics. I believe it's One More Day. Essentially, in this comic line, if you aren't familiar with it, Spider-Man makes a deal with Mephisto that Mephisto will bring Aunt May back to life if Mary Jane and Peter Parker's marriage never existed. It never happened. So they essentially get rid of the marriage. Aunt May's back to life. Logically, I don't think that makes any sense. Okay, but we won't get into the comic version of this. That's just the example of what Mephisto did. Now, why did Mephisto make that deal? We find out later on that he is terrified of the daughter of Spider-Man and Mary Jane, because one day she will be the downfall of Mephisto. So Mephisto is trying to prevent the birth of Mayday. And the final question we have, who else has Mephisto made a deal with, right? We've only seen two. Are there others? Is there people that we already know that might have made a deal with the guy? Because he has now opened up revival in the MCU. He has opened up that can. So now people can be brought back to life. Now, clearly, it is through a deal that probably no one wants to make, but at the end of the day, it's still on the table. I think of Yelena as a target to bring back Black Widow. I don't think they'll do that. I don't think so, but I see that as a potential. Does Thor do that with Loki? I don't think so, because we have a different version of Loki running around now. I think when that version of Loki meets our version of Thor, I think that reunion will be insane. So I'll be very curious to see if he's made a deal with anybody else. Johnny Blaze, this is the setup to the Ghost Riders, okay? We have our key. Mephisto is here. Ghost Rider should be right around the corner. Cross our fingers. So I'm very excited at the potential that Mephisto brings to the table, because yes, it extends into the magic realm, and it also extends into the afterlife as well, because he is in charge of hell. He is the devil in the Marvel universe. He also has kids as well. Like, we're opening up a different side of Marvel, and I always enjoy it when they can continue to expand the MCU even further, like the comics are. So the world building is possible there. I'm very curious. I'm very curious to see where they go moving forward with him. Time for the overall ratings. On a number scale, I give this a 7 out of 10 laser beams. I'm feeling laser beams on this one. 7 out of 10 laser beams. Look, this is solid. It's good. I could actually see myself rewatching this, which is not something I thought I would say originally. I thought this would be a one and done kind of thing. Like, I'm trying to compare it to some of the other stuff, but I haven't watched it. I feel like that's how I'd feel about She-Hulk, right? I feel like She-Hulk would be a one and done watch. I think about Captain Marvel. That's not something I'm gonna go rewatch. I'd rewatch the Marvels. I wouldn't rewatch Captain Marvel. So for me to be able to like come out of this and say Ironheart, I would rewatch this show. That's a thumbs up here. So I'm gonna give it a solid 7 out of 10. It's a good show. Give it a shot. Don't let the reviews, deter you. And then my one word review, per always, I'm gonna say surprising. This was surprising. I'm still surprised that I actually enjoyed this show. It's nice. It's good. I look at a character like Ironheart. This is not a character I thought would have a successful TV show, and that's nothing against the character at her core. I love Ironheart. I love the concept of Ironheart. It works really, really well. I just didn't think she had enough screen time to warrant the TV show, and I was proved wrong. And I'm very happy that I was proved wrong, because there was a good story to tell. Money does not solve everything in life. It doesn't. So I came out of this looking forward to more Ironheart. I'm looking forward to more Iron Man shows and movies. I know we don't have Iron Man currently, and it makes me wish wish that Tony was still around. There's a lot of interactions there. I can't wait for Ironheart to meet War Machine. I think that combo will be a lot of fun when that happens. That's why I'm really excited about Armor Wars. I hope that's still in the works because I think Zeke Stane's going to be your main villain for this. However, I can see a lot more villains coming into this. I can see a Justin Hammer coming back for Armor Wars. Do we get a Crimson Dynamo? Do we get a Hurricane? I'm trying to think of some other villains for Iron Man. MODOK would be kind of cool for Armor Wars. Look, my point is there's a lot of options here on the table now with Armor Wars, and it's not just going to be War Machine out there by himself. You're going to have Ironheart. I don't know if you get a rescue here. I don't know if Pepper makes a comeback. So I'm genuinely happy for that moving forward. So like I said, overall, give it a shot. Don't listen to the reviews. Always go watch things for yourself. And thank you for watching another episode of CineBeans. Deuces.